Hi guys, welcome back to Inside the Reno. I'm so happy that you're joining me for another video. If you're new to the channel, welcome to the Inside the Reno gang. If you aren't new to the video, I'm so excited that you've returned for another one. Today's video is going to be a little bit of a tea spiller. It's a question that I definitely have been asked, but I feel like that people are quite scared to ask me about, and so I just thought, you know what, so I'm gonna let you guys in. I know it's early on, I know we're still getting to know each other, I know it's scary territory talking about money, but I don't want it to be a taboo subject. For me, not treating money as a taboo, whether it's with regards to my friends or my family or even talking to my parents, I think has really helped me shape kind of my relationship towards money and what I know I can do with it. And so I feel like this is a great point at which to kind of like start us off on that journey of being open. So today's video, I want to kind of tell you how we, as you know, this is a business venture with my mum, how we got the money together to start in our first property renovation. I am ever so slightly like about sharing it, but like I said in the first video, I want this to be an open, honest place for you guys to ask questions and for me to just let you guys know like the tea, the truth on how we got started and yeah, how it's serving us. Right at the top of this video, I want to say this is not financial advice. This is me just telling you in my experience what's worked for us, what we did to be able to get the money together to start our first project. In no way, shape or form am I saying that you need to follow everything that I've done to a T. There is so many ways to be able to gather funds, gather up the capital to be able to start on your first project. These are just the ways that I did it and the ways that I found useful. I'm just kind of sharing what's worked for us. There was a lot of research that had to go into even figuring out how we were going to get the money together, and even going forward with funding future projects, the same kind of diligence is going to go into it. So I would definitely advise anything that I talk about in this video for you to go off, do your own research. This is just the starting point. Don't make this like your final decision point. Like, definitely don't do that. As you're here, you know, as we've gotten started in the video, you might as well subscribe to the channel. I am uploading regularly and be able to share information like this. It's information that you might not necessarily get from other people on YouTube. There's one channel that I absolutely love. It's called The Break, and it's by Patricia. She has a channel that is solely dedicated to kind of finances, investments, and just getting your money up. I would definitely link it in the description bar because her channel has really been an inspiration to me to be able to be like, you know what, it's actually not a bad thing for us to be honest. It's not a bad thing to share numbers. It ultimately helps everyone if everyone is kind of a bit more aware of how to do things and what is realistic in terms of what you want to do, because everything has to boil down to what is realistic for you. Everything that I'm about to talk about is what was realistic for us, is what's working for us, and you just have to kind of like take the essence of it and figure out whether it's something that you can do, figure out whether it's something that you can apply in order to be able to kind of start your own project if that's something that you're interested in. Doesn't even necessarily have to be property based. This goes for any kind of business. Without any further virtue signaling and disclaimers, I will get into how we have gotten the money together to start in our first property venture. So I think it's really important off the bat for people to know that I am not doing this by myself. In the first instance, I'm really blessed and I'm really lucky that I have a really great relationship with my parents, and that great relationship has allowed me to be able to like talk quite freely about money, about what I want to do in terms of my future, and also that how that relates to their future. And as part of that, I approached them last year and just said, have we got money available to us to be able to start investing? Because it's something that I've always wanted to do since I was a kid, and I kind of opened up that conversation, that discussion with my parents around, is there money available to us that we can kind of like pull together from different places, whether that's savings, whether that's money tied up maybe in other things, like is there something that we can do to be able to start this venture? And really luckily for me, the answer was yes. And the reason I'm sharing this is because I don't want people to look at me as like a young person. I'm 26 years old. I've worked full time since I was like 17 with a break in the middle to go to uni. But I don't want people to look at me and think like, oh my God, like how has she done this? Like how has she been able to get together all these thousands of pounds to be able to start in property. I don't want to create like an unrealistic kind of expectation for what young people should be able to do, because it's just not that way. And I think it's way better for everybody to be able to know that, okay, like she did actually get some help and some assistance in doing this. I don't think it's a bad thing to share that, because I hate it when I'm like watching someone and I'm like, I'm never gonna be there, not knowing that that person had XYZ kind of set up for them in order for them to be able to do what it was that they were doing. So I just think it's really important for me to be honest and say, like, I didn't do this by myself. Although all the work that I'm putting in is definitely my effort, all the tears, all the sleepless nights have definitely been mine. Getting started in terms of the funds has not been solely me. So if there's one piece of advice that I would say from the beginning, is if there's other people around you that maybe are interested in doing the same thing, whether it's your parents, if it's a brother or sister, a sibling, even if it's like a niece or nephew, like if you've got family who you trust, who you know that if you went into something that is regarding finances, that say everything went wrong, you wouldn't lose your relationship over it. If there are people like that in your life, definitely see if you can join forces. Utilize the people around you, even if it's friends. If you have a close friend who you know has like the same mindset as you, has the same money ambitions that you do, utilize the people around you, join forces, because you don't know what money someone might have sitting around. They might have money waiting around wanting to do something, but they haven't got maybe the acumen or the skills or the know-how to go ahead and do it. And if you're someone that knows how to do that, look, you've got the pie and you've got the spoon and you bring them together and you can have magic. One thing I will tell you guys is investing doesn't have to be hundreds of thousands in the beginning. It actually doesn't. There are so many resources out there that will kind of like drive home the fact that you don't need as much as what you probably think you need to get started in investing. It's just about being smart with your money. That brings me on to my second point, leveraging capital that you have already got. And I'm not, again, saying that this is financial advice. It's definitely something that you would have to figure out for yourself and like speak to the right financial advisors. But you can do things like releasing equity. So you can release equity from a mortgage. If your parents have been paying off their mortgage for the last 20 years, no doubt they're going to have money available to them to be able to release. And if they are in the position where they want to take that money and make it do something and make it grow, it's definitely a discussion to be had. Just see whether you can leverage any kind of capital that you already have, whether it's like pulling equity from a mortgage or using savings that you've got. You might not even remember some of the savings that you've started. Like your parents might have started a fund for you when you were little and might have forgotten about it. Like, I'm not kidding, guys, these things do happen. So it's just about like switching on and thinking like, where can I pull money from? What can I do? Even if it's not like where you need to be, if you can gather up a decent sized pot, it will definitely mean that you can start something rather than just twiddling your thumbs and thinking like, there's no way I can do this. There's definitely always a way. But all I'm saying in this point is that there are definitely ways to make money from the small amount that you have got. Even if you've got a small amount, like that is better than nothing. So definitely make use of it. Point number 3 that I'm gonna go on to is when you are looking at investing in property, it always pays to make sure that you are looking in areas, in regions that are going to make your money stretch the furthest. So for example, when we first started out, just being completely honest, we started with about £90,000 available to us. Now for many people, they might think like, wow, that's a huge amount of money. For some people hearing that, they're like, wow, like you managed to do anything with £90,000. It's all completely relative. And I'm not saying that number to be like, wow, look at me, £90,000. It's definitely not it. It's so that you can realistically know that you don't have to have hundreds of thousands to start in property investment. It's all about taking the money that you've got and looking in areas and places where your money is going to stretch the furthest. Obviously, £90,000 is not going to get you even a box in London. Like, you would be lucky to find a room for £90,000 in London. Therefore, we're not going to start trying to invest in London. We haven't even started investing in our local area, because even in the area that we live in, we live just north of London. £90,000 is not going to carry you very far. However, if you look further up the country, but if you definitely look from the kind of center of the country upwards, you're definitely gonna find more for your money. And it's just about whether you are willing to venture out. If you're not willing to kind of travel, if it's not within your scope or in your remit to be able to be in the car a lot and be going to visit these places that are not necessarily in your local area, then it's probably going to be difficult for you to commit to a project that is not in your local area. And therefore, if you have only got a smaller amount that you're starting out with, it might just be difficult in general for you to start. But we kind of made a commitment when we started in our project that we are going to kind of like go where we need to go. And the first property that we purchased is actually only about an hour and a half drive from our home, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in volume and the amount of times that we've had to visit the property, it has now gotten to the point where it's like, oh my god, like it's such a drive. It's a lot sometimes to want to actually like get up and go, but it's not too far, and that's the point. If you're going to look outside of where you're living, you have to make sure that it's realistic for you to be able to actually travel to said place. But if you are able to do that, trust me, your money is going to go a lot further in this country. Obviously, if you're lucky enough to live in an area that is up north and you've got the funds to be able to do that, mate, you're laughing. But we don't live up north, we don't even live the central part of the country, we live kind of southeast in the country, which means that if we want to make our money go further, we have to go up higher. And that is the case for now. The north is definitely somewhere that you can invest with a smaller amount. I've seen videos and podcasts that talk about you only needing like 30,000 to start investing in the north. And depending on what your goal is, if your goal is to rent places out, you might not need as much, but obviously we are buying places to flip them, which means that we need money for renovation. So part of the 90,000 goes towards buying and purchasing the property, and part of the 90,000 went towards the renovation costs. So you have to be very aware and have a goal in mind in terms of what you actually want to do with property. That will tell you how much you need, and that will tell you where you should be looking. Okay, and moving on to piece number 4 in terms of what got us our money and how we started in buying our first property, is that the money that we have, so I'm talking about this £90,000 figure, which is been brought together through savings, through leveraging our existing kind of capital, pulling together from different places, looking in a region where we can afford more for our money. The fourth piece of that puzzle was actually getting a loan out. And I know for some people that might not be an option, that might not be something that they feel comfortable doing. Like I said, this is just what we did and what's worked for us. But we actually use something called a bridging loan, which I know for people that are experienced and know what that is, that can seem like a very scary, very taboo, very dirty word, bridging loans. And a lot of people do have those opinions and do have those thoughts because they're like, oh my god, it's so high interest. What if I don't pay in time? What if this happens? What if that happens? And all the numbers start like whirring around your head and you're thinking, oh my god, I'm going to be paying thousands back in interest, which is the case. However, if you're using a bridging loan in a smart way, if you know exactly how much the bridging loan is going to cost you at the beginning, how much you are set to make at the end, and you factor all those costs in, a bridging loan is just a resource. It's a resource like anything else. It's money that is available to you that's obviously going to cost you, but as long as you cost it into what you're doing, it doesn't have to be viewed as a negative thing. Again, when it came to the bridging loan, we did so much research. We probably got quotes from like upwards of 10 companies before we settled on the one that we wanted to use. The one that we wanted to use had pretty great terms, I'm not gonna lie. They had, although it was high interest, it was definitely the best interest rate of the bridging loans that we researched. And in terms of the repayment loan, we actually managed to basically set it up so that from the beginning we had paid off 6 months worth of interest. So for 6 months we don't have to worry or think about that bridging loan, and we were hoping that the project was going to be done within 6 months. It's looking to sort of be the case. I think we'll be finished by 6 months, but by the time we actually sell the house we're going to be over that 6 month period. But even when it comes to that, we factored in those costs before we got the loan out. So we factored for worst case scenario, which is what I advise you always do when it comes to property purchasing. Always factor for the absolute worst case scenario, and then if things go better, then happy days. But if you start doing your numbers based on like best case, like let me tell you, you are gonna die. You're gonna die out here in these streets. It wasn't an easy decision to make in terms of deciding whether we wanted to do it. When we first actually started, this property, although it's our first that we completed on and the first that we completely purchased, it's not the first that we made an offer on. The first property that we made an offer on, we were hoping to basically do the whole project within that £90,000. But actually, after listening to many podcasts and reading and just doing research, I'll actually link in the description bar the Property Hub podcast that I listened to, because it's amazing in terms of giving invaluable hints, tips and tricks and how to make your money work for you when it comes to property. But after doing so much research, it made more sense to kind of like split our 90,000 into the amount that we're going to use for the renovation and the amount that we're going to use for the house purchase, but with the help of a bridging loan. And I won't get into the ins and outs of how a bridging loan works, but essentially a bridging loan is like the equivalent of like a short-term mortgage. So you have to have a loan to value rate. So the amount that we had available to buy the house that we were looking at had to kind of match up with what the bridging loan were going to be able to offer us in terms of being able to cover the full cost of the purchase. And so after we ran all the numbers, after we looked at worst case scenario, it was clear to us that using a bridging loan was going to be kind of not the only way, but the best way that we can make the most of our money within this project. So I hope I've kind of covered all of like the 4 main factors that I would say will help you to feel equipped to try and get into property investment. Again, I would say the 4 things are: join forces when you can join forces. If you can find people that want to do the same things that you want to do, you have no idea what money they've got stored away. Have those open discussions, speak to the people around you, have those conversations with family. You just don't know what someone might be sitting on and what they want to do. Leverage what capital that you do have, pull from whatever resources you can, leverage the kind of capital that you already have, because a lot of us will have money stored up in some way, shape or form, or hopefully we'll have money stored up in some way, shape or form. And if you don't, this is your sign to start doing that. Start saving, start doing what you can in the smallest ways so that you can reach your goals. If you have shares in the company that you work in, if you are at a place where you can pull those out, just do what you can and like research your options in terms of what is already available to you and leverage what you've got. So that's point number 2. Point number 3 is look outside of the area that you might be living in, because the area you might be living in might be way more expensive and way out of your price bracket and might make you feel like you can't invest because you're like, well, there's nothing around here I can afford. But if you travel 100 miles up the road, there will be things there that you can afford. So that will make your money stretch. And point number 4, lastly, to round it up, though this is not financial advice, do your research and see whether there are loans, see whether there are things out there that can help you to maximize on what you already have. There is Google. First of all, do your Googles, okay? So do your research, do your Googles, and figure out what it is that you can do with what you have. And if you're sitting here and you've just listened to all of this and you think like, that just still doesn't sound like me, that doesn't sound like anything that I have available, use this as the moment that you're going to decide, I'm going to start saving. Even if you are putting away £1 a day, okay, maybe not £1 a day because you will be there for the rest of your life trying to save, but reassess your finances, make sure that you are putting away money, make sure that you have a goal in mind. If you do want to start in property investment, be serious about it, because if you're not serious about it, it's not going to be serious about you. I hope me sharing in what we did will hopefully inspire or unlock something in your mind as to something that could help you do the same. And like I said, please do leave comments. I'm more than happy to answer any more questions. This was not like a gloat session. This is definitely just something I wanted to share with you guys what we did, and hopefully it will help you in your property investment journey. Yeah, thank you so much for joining me again on this video. I will see you on the next one inside the reno. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit the bell notification so you don't miss when I upload. Thank you so much, guys. See you. Bye.